without further ado, I would love to introduce you to my good friend, Mike Rowe. Let's get Mike on to join us. Oh, there he
Please,
is.
everyone, take your seats, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. David, thank you. Very kind. Everything you said was both sweet and accurate. And it was a difficult decision for me tonight to decide whether or not to do this because, in column A, I had the choice of going on the Angel Guild and watching myself, literally binging on myself for hours, or sitting here with you and talking about myself. So it's a very difficult decision, right? What do you do if you're me? Do you watch yourself for hours on end, or do you simply talk about yourself with your friend David? So I've decided to talk about myself
How about
for the next hour or so.
Thank you, Mike. Listen, we're thrilled to have you, and maybe you could just tell our audience that is joining in some of the highlights of your career, like what you have been doing and what has led you to coming to Angel and engaging in this show. Somebody's got to do it.
Well, first of all, hi, welcome. Thank you for welcoming me, everybody. When David talked about the parallels between the Guild and my own career, I was just sitting here nodding violently off camera because it is the truth. First and foremost, we look at the audience the same way. You guys are the boss. I've believed that my whole life, and it's really been a kick to work with people who not only say it but actually mean it. Walk the walk, in other words. But yeah, to answer your question, David, my career started a long, long time ago, but nobody cared until Dirty Jobs came along, and that show was largely a mistake. It wasn't supposed to be a hit. It certainly wasn't supposed to be a franchise, and it definitely wasn't supposed to launch 39 other shows on the Discovery Channel. But that's exactly what happened. In 2001, I put up a pilot episode that I shot myself. I've told you the story, but the short version is it was really an attempt to get my mom off my back. She had called me. I was working for CBS and had been for a year or so. And she said, Michael, your grandfather's going to have a birthday next week. He's going to be 90 years old. And wouldn't it be great, she said, if before he died, if he could just turn on the TV and see you doing something that looked like work. So the next day I took my cameraman and I went into the sewers of San Francisco and I shot a story about a sewer inspector. And that crazy footage, well, it got me booted from CBS, but I was eventually able to sell it to the Discovery Channel. And that was it. People saw themselves in that show. And if they didn't see themselves, they saw somebody they loved, And so once Dirty Jobs got on the air, it was the fan mail that really told me we were onto something. Because it wasn't just, oh, God, that was disgusting, or, oh, you're funny, or, oh, I learned so much. Most of the feedback that I got early in my career was from people who said, if you think that was dirty, wait till you meet my brother, my cousin, my granddad, my sister. Wait till you see what they do for a living. So a show that began as a way to honor my granddad, who was an electrician by trade, but only went to the 7th grade, but wound up being the kind of guy who could build a house without a blueprint, right? A show that began as a tribute to him is still on the air. It's 22 years. That show has been on the air every single day for 22 years. And the funny thing is, I don't know if I told you this, I think I did, but that segment that I filmed in the sewer all those years ago that launched Dirty Jobs was originally a segment on CBS called Somebody's Got to Do It. And so those shows, right, they're really the same thing. It's just me tapping the country on the shoulder and saying, hey, get a load of him, get a load of her. Wait till you see what they do for a living. Wait till you see what they care about. And, I change the title of the shows I work on every 7 or 8 years, but that's basically what I've been up to for the last 2.5 decades. Seeing who's got to do it, seeing who's not afraid to get dirty, returning the favor here and there, people you should know. There's a new one coming out, but it's all basically the same mission-oriented kind of attempt, and always programmed by the viewer, not the network.
We love it. I mean, you're all over Angel at this point, and we love it. Our audience loves it. I mean, I think as I go in actually to vote on my app in the guild, whether I'm just have a moment, right? And when you become a guild member, you get a chance to vote on every show that comes in. You get a sneak peek at the shows before they're even accepted, right? Because you're voting on them. And we were thrilled to kind of take a step. You trusted us, Mike, and we greatly appreciate that. And we took a step last fall, right? And you and your team submitted a couple of episodes just to see how they would do. And it was extraordinary as we started to, like, the ball started rolling and catching kind of momentum. It was amazing. Your shows on Somebody's Got to Do It have scored amongst the highest shows that have gone through the guild voting process. And I remember it can be a little frustrating at first, like someone with your reputation, your background. I mean, you were advertising for F-150s for like a decade. I felt like I felt like I saw you doing stuff with Ford Motor Company, right? And then you have to, we have to have you go through a voting process. Like normally people just pay you to come and do stuff, and you're like, wait a minute, what do we have to do?
Yes and no. I mean, the world does work that way, and I think a lot of people in my industry anyway, they think, like, if you have a show on Netflix, the thought is, oh, I work for Netflix. I've had shows on Discovery for 30 years. People figure you work for Discovery. You mentioned Ford. Yes, Ford hired me, and I did a lot of commercials for them because I drove an F-150, and I'm a fan of the brand, and it was easy for me to do it. But the truth is, I never really worked for Ford or Discovery or Netflix. Those guys signed the checks, but in the end, you work for the people who watch you. On my podcast, I work for the people who listen to me. I've always believed that, and it's a point that I know your audience understands it intuitively, but in my world, this was a real game changer, right? After the first season of Dirty Jobs really took hold, the network took a hold of it, right? And they had a real idea. They had a real notion of what that show should be. And I say this with great respect because they're my partner in the program, and I do respect what they think, but not as much as I respect what the viewer wants, because that's who we work for. And so, we had a real moment early on back in, I guess it was 2004, where we just said, look, guys, I want the viewer to program this show. I want them to tell me where to go and who to meet. And to be honest with you, I want them to host the show too. I don't want to be a traditional host. I want to be an apprentice, and I want to work next to people, real people who have real jobs. I don't want to tell them what to say. I don't want to hire writers. I don't want to hire casting agents. Honestly, people don't believe me when I tell them this, but we never did a second take on Somebody's Got to Do It or on Dirty Jobs. We always had a behind the scenes camera rolling. And whenever things went off the rails or whenever there was a mistake, I used to call it warts and all programming. I wanted the viewer to see what the obstacles were in the course of shining a light on the people we wanted to elevate. And so I guess looking back, nobody else was doing it quite that way at the time. But to me, it was just the most honest way to make sure a nonfiction show lives up to being nonfiction.
No, it's so cool, man. I mean, and I'm not just blowing smoke here. It really is, like, it is part of like who we are at Angel. And I was kind of blown away when I came to Angel as a producer. and brought a film to the table, I couldn't believe how Angel actually cared for, respected, and really sought after the opinion of the audience, to the point that if a project comes to one of the Harmon brothers who founded this company, they cannot greenlight it. That's part of like the underlying ethic of the company. It will not get greenlit. And
Yep.
that is game changing. Like you said, it's disruptive. I love it. And one of the things that we do on Somebody's Got to Do It, because this was a series that aired over like a decade ago, right? So this is like you're going back into the archives of a project that has gone on different networks. What we did to put something special, a spin on this, is Mike came up to the Angel, to our studio at Angel, and I went down to Mike's studio in California, and we filmed some, like an interview, right? And so we work on looking back actually at each of the episodes and like having fun talking through, well, what was going on when you were at this, right? So I mean, I think that's kind of the unique part that we've done here on Angel for our Angel audience.
I look, I said this to you last time and I meant it. It's among the most satisfying things I've done. And it's not just because it's me talking about me. That sounds absurd. But it's me trying to explain why Leila, the proprietor of the Hair Museum, left an impression on me, or why Linda Watson, the prairie dog lady uh, out in Western Texas, really changed the way I thought about the environment, or how those kids I met on the USS John Stennis, the nuclear powered aircraft carrier. I mean, it's just the the kinds of shows that I work on, because they're unscripted and because you don't know what's going to happen. It really lends itself to looking back at and then unpacking and hopefully sharing with the viewer something meaningful about either what you learned or what surprised you. And more often than not, and maybe most importantly of all, what you got wrong. Because if you can be honest about what you got wrong, either in the course of producing a segment or maybe in your assumptions about a person, you're right, you can't necessarily be that candid in the midst of filming an unscripted show. It's only over time. And with this show in particular, to your point, we started filming this thing back in 2014. And believe it or not, the network who initially bought it, after CBS told me to beat it, I sold the idea to CNN. And they did it for a couple of years. I was on with Tony Bourdain, but it wasn't a great fit over there on a couple of different levels. But I took it to the opposite ends of the spectrum. It wound up on Trinity, where it
Wow.
found an audience there. And then everywhere we put this thing, people had questions about it. In the end, people don't often have questions about plot. They don't have questions about, you know, all the all the normal stuff you might find in a movie. But I mean, maybe they do, but not to the extent that they have about real people. And
That's right.
that's the privilege, right? And like your mission, which I love, is to amplify the light. And you initially did that so well with scripted, with films, right? With Sound of Hope and Sound of Freedom, and the Tuttle Twins too, which is terrific and really scripted out. It's so great that the Harmon brothers would go to the other end of the creative spectrum and see where the light lives in a completely unscripted world. That was super cool. And that's why I can't wait to talk to you about some other projects that are in the works that I think your audience is going to dig.
If you're joining us right now, you have just kind of stepped into the world of Somebody's got to do it. Mike Rowe and his team put an extraordinary several seasons together that he's bringing to the Angel Guild. And you can get a front row seat at all of this by going to angel.com/Mike Guild. You'll see it on the bottom of the screen, angel.com/Mike Guild, to get a look at the first 2 seasons of Somebody's Got to Do It with additional bonus footage. Mike and I took some time after every episode to kind of unpack the behind the scenes and how each of those episodes had an impact both on Mike and on the community that surrounded these people. I just want to help everyone that's out there, Mike, get a kind of an introduction to you, and that's a little bit of what we've been doing. Love to take everyone behind the scenes of season 2 a little bit. If you and I can just give them a little highlight of what they're going to be looking at, and I'm just gonna throw a couple of the titles out there, and maybe you can give me a couple words that come to mind when you think about these titles. All right, so we all love what makes the final cut, but let's go a little bit deeper. And speaking about these shows, so when you remember and think of Le Rev, what would you tell the audience about that's watching tonight?
So Le Rev means the dream, and it's the name of a Cirque du Soleil show that ran, I think it must have been at the MGM for many years. And when I saw this show, just as a civilian, I sat in the audience and simply didn't understand what I was seeing. Men and women were dropping 80, 90, 100 feet, all the way in the ceiling, and falling onto what I thought was a floor. At least they had been dancing on this floor that was a couple inches underwater seconds earlier, but then somehow the floor retracted and the water caught fire and the people dropped through the flames into the scene you just saw below. And I had so many questions as a guy sitting in the audience that I got agitated. And this is the best part about being me, in my opinion, is that I could take my agitation and my questions, and I could not only get them answered, I could get them filmed. So one of the first things we did is go behind the scenes in Le Rev to figure out what in the world was going on to make this spectacle possible. The guy in that shot there, his name is Dale Hurt, and he is part magician, part artist, part dreamer, part engineer. Why I'm wearing a wig in this photo, I don't have an explanation for you, David. It just happens. We were back in wardrobe, and somebody handed me the wig, and I put it on.
Calix, can you go back? Can you go back a couple of shots? We got to go back to a couple of those pictures if you can. I need to see that again. Go back up one more, or maybe 2 more, because look at those pipes, man. Look at that. Are you flexing?
No. I'm just the way God made me, David, and your jealousy is coming through in a way that's probably making the audience uncomfortable. There I am.
Quit being weird.
No, this is humbling. That's moments before I realized I had put that wetsuit on backwards.
I know, and we catch this, right? So you come out of the dressing room and you're pretty proud. You've got your wetsuit on, and they're like, you see someone come up to you and say it's on backwards, and you have to turn around and go right back into that dressing room.
I wasn't proud. I was nervous. Look, I've been diving my whole life. I hosted Shark Week. I got bit by a shark. I got the footage if you want to see it. I don't know what possessed me to put the thing on the other way around. All I knew was remember, when you're underwater in this production, working as a stagehand, right? You're about 20 feet under, you're breathing compressed air, and you're waiting for these people who fall from the ceiling. They don't have any air, and there's no way for them. You have to meet them, give them air, and then escort them through a tunnel system to get them back.
Unbelievable.
It's so flippin' dangerous that
Yeah.
your mind looks at it and you're like, I'm just not sure this makes sense to do. So, yeah, I was thinking of all that when I put my wetsuit on backwards. So give me a break.
So season 2 highlights, you just got kind of a back, you got an insight into Larev, the dream. We're going to talk about Monster Jam, where Mike literally gets into a monster truck. They were nervous as heck. I remember like that moment when you got into the monster truck. Right now, you don't have a picture of the person who was in charge of making sure Mike didn't ruin the monster truck. But boy, that kid was nervous the whole time. This was the other driver.
Well, it's a rocket ship. This thing is thousands of horsepower. It goes from 0 to airborne in seconds. And of course,
Yeah.
I've never been in one before, but this is the thing. If you're me, another pretty great thing about being me is that people toss me the keys to everything. Maybe they think it's because I'm on TV and they're on TV that nothing bad can happen. But I've literally been tossed the keys to the crawler that drives the space shuttle to the launch pad. I've driven funny cars that go 250 miles an hour. I don't have any business doing that. I've got no business driving a monster truck, but I do because somebody's got to.
You know what else? You know what else you drove? You drove a lowrider, and that episode was amazing. I mean, you're driving in a car that's bouncing you. I don't know how high were you bouncing? At least 20 feet in the air. I mean, it was going up on its hind wheels.
Yeah, well,
there it is.
we went 90 degrees at one point. And look, this thing, I'll tell you what really made me proud of this episode. When it aired initially, all the networks were like, you know something? People aren't going to know what to make of this. I mean, I go into the barrio. I hang out in the hood with the homies.
Yeah.
And I spend a whole day in a totally different culture and trying to understand the lowrider culture and trying to bond, in a world that you're not from. That takes time and it takes trust and it you just don't know how it's going to turn out. This episode, the Guild gave it like a 90 something, like a really a really high number. And that's when I knew that this show had finally found its proper home, because your audience takes things from content that the mass audience doesn't. And I don't know if it still surprises you, but it surprises me, and it's gratifying. You sent me a text a couple of weeks ago. You were just like, 96 Treehouse, give me a break. Like, you were like, what is going on with your audience? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I just know that when we did an episode about a man who lives in a tree, there was something that makes people go, you know what? There have been days where I thought maybe life would be simpler if I just lived in a tree. Maybe it reminds people of their youth, a simpler time. I don't know, but whatever it is, well, your audience has great taste. That's what I'm trying to say. And yes, I am sucking up, to be honest, but I'm still being honest.
Well, listen, if you're just joining us, you've stepped into a conversation that I'm having with Mike Rowe about Somebody's Got to Do It. We've got it on the Angel Guild, all of season 1, 12 episodes, along with season 2, now just dropped. We're pretty excited about that. You can binge watch Mike as he goes and meets regular people all over the country doing extraordinary, unique, odd, fun, interesting things in their lives. And Mike just goes along for the ride. You can go and bookmark angel.com/. Mike Guild, angel.com/Mike Guild. Mike, you ready for one game here with us?
I'm always ready. Did you just see that photo of me with my head stuck of course, do I not look like a guy who's ready for a game?
Let's do it. Listen, you've seen every kind of job that there is, but can you outsmart artificial intelligence? So here we go, Mike.
Probably
This is
not. Let's
Mike
give it a shot.
versus machine. Here we go. We're putting you up against AI. We've asked AI to describe real jobs badly. Your job is to guess what it's describing, or at least give us your best, and you'll be funny just the way you are. Your best guess. So this game is Mike versus the machine. Let's jump in and see if you can guess it. For those at home tuning in, feel free to throw your guesses into the chat if you think you know what the answer is. All right, here we go. I climb into small holes, talk to rocks, and wear a helmet with a flashlight, but I'm not in a kid's cartoon. What do you think?
Well, you could be a spelunker, I suppose, in the midst of cartography, right? Which we did years ago on Dirty Jobs, mapping underground caverns. It seems like that could be a thing. But why would you talk to the rocks? You would have to be a very lonely kind of person. I've talked to rocks, well, and stones, I suppose, if I'm being honest. I guess I would say that, yeah, that's what you got there, a spelunker.
Cave mapper, speleologist. There it is. That's pretty close. That's pretty Calix. Did we get anyone in the live that got that as well in the chat? Wonder if we did. It looks like yeah,
How about that?
fantastic. All right.
No, I didn't say speleologist, whatever that is. I just call them spelunkers, but that's pretty
I
fancy.
think
I
think it's a
but I'm not AI either. Yeah,
All
cave
right, let's try
mapper,
number two.
cartographer.
You spend all day organizing round objects by weight and occasionally yelling strike. Often works in shoes with questionable fashion sense. Often works in shoes.
Spends all day organizing round objects by weight and occasionally yelling strike. Well, that sounds like baseballs, but round objects by weight often works in shoes with questionable fashion sense. Yeah, this AI needs to be fired. Often
Which one was it? What do you think?
So is this like from the show potentially, or is this something that is it broader than that?
I think this is broader because you've met just about every person out there.
All day organizing round objects. That's got, it could be the guy. Oh, no, that's baseball mud. I'm baffled by the artificiality of the intelligence in this case.
What do we got, Calix? Bowling alley attendant. Yes, the shoes, fashionable sense. Yeah, I guess I can see that a little bit.
I got a pair of bowling shoes I wear out once in a while, just because they're super comfortable.
Francis literally got it. One of our guild members. Did you see that? Francis totally nailed it. Way to go, Francis. Number 3.
Well, Francis,
all right,
congratulations.
Wears a white coat, but never saves lives. Uses fire to make cheese better. Constantly told they have too much bark. Wears a white coat, but never saves lives.
Okay. All right.
Uses
a white coat.
Makes
fire. Constantly told they have too much bark. What a disappointment I turned out to be. I have no idea what this means. Uses fire to make cheese better.
I don't know the answers to this, man. I'm as clueless as you are right now. Our producer put that. What we got, Calix? Come on, give it to us.
A barbecue pitmaster.
Barbecue pitmaster wears a white coat but never saves lives, uses fire to make cheese better, constantly told they have too much bark. That's out
Oh,
there. That's out there.
well, too much bark, probably reference to the fuel, right? They want a certain kind of log. But I take exception to the first one. Somebody
Nobody in the
really?
audience got this.
Oh, no one.
Nobody
No
did.
one can get that.
This was bad AI. This was bad AI.
Besides,
let's
man,
go to
if you're hungry, a pitmaster could. I know pitmasters have saved lives. I've been so famished before when I've gone to get barbecue that when I get that sandwich, it's literally a lifesaver. So yeah, I take umbrage with that whole clue. All right.
All right, let's try. Let's make this the last one here. Let's go. I work in the clouds, but never touch the sky. I guide the metal birds and never leave the ground. I work in the clouds, but never touch the sky. I guide metal birds and never leave the ground. So in the
Air
clouds, is this
traffic
like?
controller.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good guess. Yeah. Boom. Nailed it. Now
You know
you're
what?
feeling.
A blind pig will find an acorn once in a while.
Mike, thank you for playing our special game. I personally think AI isn't as witty as you are, to be honest.
Well,
But it is.
I'll cherish this memory, David. I can assure you.
This could be extra content for season 2. I mean, we could put this whole thing together, right? So
Look, man.
Okay, I want
to go ahead. Hit me.
I want to start to land the bird here for all of us that have been joining. You've jumped into Somebody's Got to Do It live stream. We're doing this live stream because we just launched the second season of Somebody's Got to Do It on the Angel app. You can bookmark and join us at angel.com/Mike Guild. That's angel.com/Mike Guild. It's pretty amazing having Mike close to the Angel team. I'll say that to you, Mike, so I'm not just talking to the audience. We are privileged to have you and your team. I'll say this as well. In the work of Angel and studios and what we do, you work with a lot of different personalities all the time. And the last time I was with you filming, do you remember Los Angeles was on fire, and it was a kind of a tentative time. I mean, that was the week I flew in early January, and just to see how concerned you were for your friends, for people that were being impacted. I mean, you were constantly on the phone in between takes. We were following things. You are a man that a lot of people lean on and look to in different situations. And I got a front row seat at watching you in that time. Maybe you could take us into that just a touch.
Well, thank you. It was a very strange thing. I landed in LA the day the fires began. My office is in Santa Monica, which was adjacent to the area that was evacuated. When I was landing, I looked out the window and I said to my seatmate, "That's the most extraordinary fog bank I'd ever seen." It was just such a strange formation of clouds. But of course, it wasn't clouds. It was smoke. And during the course, like over 6 hours, things went from a manageable fire to a complete inferno. And I'll never forget that night. I was staying in a place called the Huntley, which was 20% occupied when I checked in, and 6 hours later was sold out. And many of the people who were gathered on the roof with me were watching their homes burn. And if you're looking for perspective, right, and the coming together of the species in the face of an extraordinary event, that was it. And it felt obviously sad, but it also felt important and a little surreal. And then the somebodies who got to do it started to step up. The firemen who had been working all day were coming in for breaks, and I know the owner of that hotel pretty well, and she opened it up to the first responders. And I stayed up most of that night talking to the firemen who were coming in and out of their shifts and just listening to the stories that they told. And of course, firemen were traveling in from Shasta and from all different parts of the state. And it went on really for a week. In fact, it went on for nearly a month. But that feeling you're describing of just watching something that is both terrible and galvanizing happening right in front of you, and seeing the way the different people around you react to it. It is maybe a bit of a stretch, but that's the reason that I work on the shows that I work on. When the chips are down, it's important to understand who are the neighbors you wish you had. And moments like that bring out the very best in people. Not everyone, but the people that you want to know. And yeah, I was supposed to be down there for 2 days with you, and I wound up staying for 9 because there was it just felt like a thing that you needed to see. And it was a terrible sort of privilege, but I'm still working now pretty closely with a number of people who are involved in the rebuilding. But once again, the real headline is it's the first responders. It's always the first responders, whether it's firemen or really anyone in a uniform, the people who show up and 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 put something else in front of them. You talk about amplifying the light. That's what a tragedy will do.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. And our hearts went out at the time to everyone in the area, and they continue to. Mike, pretty powerful to be with you during that time and to see you in action. It really is an honor. In fact, if you're joining us right now, season 2 of Somebody's Got to Do It is dropping on the Angel Guild. We're excited to show you just a little special extra clip. This is what Mike and I have done after each of the episodes, is we go through an interview process of the episode you just watched. Each episode is right around 20 minutes long, and then we talk for a few minutes about Mike's recollection of being a part of that episode of those people's lives. Let's roll a clip on just to give our audiences here a sneak peek.
I love climbing. I like heights. I like watermelon. And, there's a lot of muscle memory saying, okay, we can't just drive by this thing. What I didn't factor in was the size of the mosquitoes that were going to eat us alive the whole time we were there. And the fact that I still had somewhere between a really bad sprain and a broken ankle, and what that would feel like climbing.
Oh, this would have been after Disaster City.
Right after Disaster City, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, you get halfway up, about 80, 90 feet in the air, and your ankle starts to hurt, and then your gear doesn't quite work the way that's supposed to work, and you're kind of stuck on the ladder, and the mosquitoes are eating you, and you're just thinking, you know what? I was better off lost.
Now streaming on Angel.
Watermelon Thump, right? I think that was the episode we were talking about at that time. Very interesting.
Well, look, something your audience should understand is that a lot of this show was an attempt to bring to life an idea that we thought we wanted to execute on. But just as much of the show was a rumination on what happens when you get distracted on your way to doing the thing you thought you were going to do, but then you see a water tower shaped like a watermelon and get it into your head that your day just simply isn't going to be right until you climb it, because you learn that there's a guy in the town of Luling whose whole job, that guy, his whole life is tending to that water tower and one or two others off in the distance that provide the area with all of the water that they need. So suddenly, this weird random climb up an endless ladder with a broken ankle turns into a pretty serious conversation with the man who is in charge of the water that keeps this town alive. That wasn't on the shot list. We went to Luling for a watermelon thump, which is just a big party celebrating the fact that this town's whole world revolves around watermelons. And then at the thump, they all get together to see who can spit the seeds further than anybody else. And this struck me as something else that your audience really needed to see. And so we filmed that as well.
Multi-generational, right? They were kid to old.
Oh, they're kids, it was all grandkids, granddads, moms, grandmothers. I saw a woman get so enthused, she took a running start. She had the seed in her mouth, and she was so determined to set a record for her age bracket. She spit so hard her dentures came out. You see a woman's false teeth bouncing across the floor in the middle of a watermelon thump. And there's really nothing to do except look at the camera and go, yeah, man, somebody's got to do it.
There it is. There it is. It's really fun having a live stream with you. It brings me back to our interviews. I look forward to doing interviews for season 3, to be honest. If you're just joining us, please visit angel.com/Mike Guild. Angel.com/Mike Guild this week to watch the entirety of season 1 and 2 of Somebody's Got to Do It, which is now on Angel. We always end our live streams, our segments, with Q&A from the audience and some final thoughts. So love to take a few questions from our audience right now. Let's see here. We got Richard. I want to make sure right when I put my cursor up, got something over it.
I can see Mike, it. Mike, will we get to season 3? Boom. We can't get enough of the show. Well, it's in the can. If David says we're doing it, it'll be coming at you fast. So I'm good to go. We have a total of 60 episodes, right? And we're calling each season about 13 or so. So yeah, Richard, right. We got it.
That's nice. You heard it here first. Monica says, how often does Mike get back to Baltimore? Miss Maryland crab cakes. Ooh, tell me more.
My mom and dad still live there. That's my hometown. Yes. The first thing I do when I land is get a crab cake. There are 3 or 4 places I favor, but really it's the blue crabs. Calanectus sabatus. That means beautiful swimmer in Latin. And the Maryland blue crab, Monica, is different than the Alaskan king crab or the opilio or the tanner or the stone crab or the Dungeness crab. Maryland blue crab. That I'm just telling you, they're the best.
Gee. Oh, that's amazing. Calix, do we have any more questions? Oh, yes, we do. Brittany says, have you ever done a show about survivors of natural disasters? Interesting.
I'm having a natural disaster right now, Kaylee. Hang on. Okay. Yes, I have. Jeez whiz. While I'm choking to death, tell her about Disaster City.
So Mike and I had an opportunity to do an interview completely on this very unique place that has been built completely. I believe it was down in Arizona. You've got an entire mock-up set for natural disasters, so that first responders can train. Actually, if a parking garage collapses or houses are on fire, buildings, this is kind of large scale. So I feel like the way that you entered into this, when they say Disaster City, they mean it. It's a whole model that was set up. That Mike, then they even did like makeup on you. It was like film grade makeup that made it look like your arm was gnarled up.
Hyper realistic a whole town. It was actually in Texas. Billy Parker built this thing, a former fireman, and my goodness, it is. I don't know how many lives they've saved just through their training process, but I can tell you that on my way to film there, that's where I broke my ankle. So I showed up in
That's
a
right.
boot, and instead of working as a first responder, I basically had to play the role of a victim. It was very humbling, but yeah, that was a heck of a thing. But to answer your question, Brittany, I have, and I am going to go back to California sometime in the future. But here's the thing about disasters: when they need the press the most, it's not in the wake of it. It usually takes time, right? And then people start to forget. I went back to Katrina a year and a half after the flood, and I plan on getting to North Carolina pretty soon because there are whole parts of that state that have been seriously devastated, and the press they didn't show up to cover it. So we'll find a way either to do Somebody's Got to Do It or an episode of a new program I'm working on. We'll get there. But that's the thing about disasters. When they're really in the news, that's the last time the people there need to be reminded of what's happened. It's usually a year or two later.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, it is something that you bring to the table, and that's pretty powerful. Kara, guild member, says, "Will there be a sequel to Something to Stand For?" Interesting.
Yes, we're calling it Something to Sit For, and it's going to go in a completely different direction. No, I'm kidding. You know, never say never. Something to Stand For was picked up by the Guild last fall. I released it in theaters on the 4th of July, and it was a super, super limited run. And I'm personally still not convinced that enough people have seen the whole thing. It's got a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it definitely found its audience with the Guild. But I would like to get behind and push the original again. But yeah, to answer your question, I think in a lot of ways that the notion of what do you stand for and who are you and what do you believe really is really at the heart of what the Harmon brothers built, and it's been central to just about every show that I've worked on. That movie hit it pretty hard, right on the head. But I'd do it again. In fact, I think you're going to see variations on that theme all over the media this year in ad campaigns. I think it's going to be a big point of conversation. People are going to want to know who you are and what you stand for, more so than ever.
Yeah, very true. I think, honestly, Something to Stand For, the format was an old Paul Harvey format, right? I mean, that was her. So that was the cool part about it, is that we have, is it 9 vignettes that were kind of strung together with footage that you did, in our at our Capitol, and but really powerful to be able to. Well, I wouldn't say powerful. It was fun. It was just fun because you could enter into a story and you hid it from us. You came and walked out onto a stage. You sat there, front and center on the stage, and then you started to read a scenario. But what you do in the film is you hide the actual year and when it actually happened. So you, as an audience member, get to guess 9 times in a row what event is he talking about, and that's kind of a fun way of engaging in entertainment.
Well, you mentioned Paul Harvey, and he was certainly one of the greats. And I could never fill his shoes, but it's been a privilege to follow in his footsteps. And the idea of telling a story backwards and burying the identity of the hero into a reveal that only pops up at the end. Paul Harvey perfected that. I borrowed that approach and called it The Way I Heard It, and wrote actually more like about 180 stories in that format. The movie Something to Stand For took 9 of them that were very patriotic in nature and recreated them for the visual world, which was never my intent when I wrote them. And then it turned into a major motion picture, and then Angel picked it up. So you just never know where a good story will go. They don't have to be long. They can be short. These were short stories, but we stitched together 9 of them. Next thing we knew, we had a movie. And now we got a home for it. So, one more
It's
happy
pretty
ending.
cool.
It's great.
It's pretty cool. We love it. Okay, we have a last question here for you, and it's coming in from drum roll. Let's see, what do we got? Peter J says, "What's next for you, Mike? What's your next project?" Good question.
Well, I'm not sure how much I I should say to you guys, since my hope is that this project winds up on the Guild. But there was a show I worked on for a few years called Returning the Favor, and it was on Facebook, and we did 100 episodes. And this was truly a show that celebrated the neighbors you wish you had. We would show up under the guise of making a documentary, and then at the end, there would be a parade or a elaborate surprise, a gift that would allow the person we were honoring to do more of what they were already doing. This show was downloaded 450 million times. We did 100 episodes. I don't know if you noticed, David, but look, I won an Emmy. I actually won an Emmy for this show, which is not nearly as impressive as the trophy I got from the Tuttle twins that says, Mike Rowe, you worked on a cartoon and came in 4th place. But never mind the trophies. This show, Returning the Favor, people have been bugging me for 4 years to reboot it. And I don't own that title, but I do have the right to the format. So a new program called People You Should Know will debut in just a couple of weeks on YouTube. But we're looking for a home, and we're bootstrapping it. We did it pretty much on our own. So we got 6 episodes. We're going to shoot 6 more over the summer, and that's the TV thing. The thing that never stops is the foundation called Mike Rowe Works. We're giving away work ethic scholarships. In fact, right now, I apologize. I've been fighting this crud for the last couple days, but we have $3 million over at mikeroweworks.org that we're awarding in the form of work ethic scholarships to help train the next generation of skilled workers. It's something I've been doing for 16 years. We're really serious about it. It's a big problem in our country. We've got 7.5 million open jobs now that don't require a 4-year degree. And it's personal to me, back to my granddad and the reason Dirty Jobs got started. He was an electrician, and we have a shortage of electricians right now, and plumbers and welders and steam fitters and pipe fitters. So my foundation exists to help train the next generation of skilled workers. And if anybody in the Guild that's listening has a niece or a nephew or a brother or a sister or somebody who could benefit from this, we'll be awarding those scholarships soon. The application process is going to go for the next couple of weeks, and really nothing would please me more than to know that members of the Guild were going there to help me spend some of this money. It's become my life's work, and it's such a great legacy for Dirty Jobs and for Somebody's Got to Do It, and really for everything I've worked on before. So yeah, that's what keeps me busy today. When I'm not coughing my brains out on a live stream, I'm working on my foundation, and I'm working on new episodes of People You Should Know.
It's awesome. And my Instagram feed always is sending me videos of you walking and talking to your camera. And it usually has to do with this scholarship. And I'm always like, I'm impressed. And it's made me talk to young men and women that I come across that ask questions. And I say, have you ever checked out Mike Rowe's, scholarship for this, because there is a need, and it's just planting that seed, Mike, that you've got $3 million at your foundation that's going out. That's awesome. That is awesome. And it helps the rest of us listening tonight just bring it up like, hey, check it out. Go check out Mike's website.
Well, I appreciate it. It's not a TV show, it's not a movie, but it's really interesting how powerful it is when I sit down and ask somebody who we've assisted maybe 5 years ago with a $6,000 grant to get a welding scholarship. And when I say to that guy, I'm just thinking of this because it just happened. His name was Jake. And I just said, how's it going? It's been a while. What's new? Last I talked to him, he'd been underwater welding, which is an amazing thing. But he said, let me tell you what I did. I hired 2 buddies, a plumber and an electrician, and we just brought on a couple of HVAC guys. I got 3 vans. I got 7 employees. We're doing $4 million a year. We have more work than we can do. We set our own schedules. We're having a terrific time building a business. And it started with a $6,000 scholarship to learn how to weld. Those stories also amplify the light. And if I have my way, one of these days, me, you, the Harmon brothers, we're going to sit down and we're going to figure out how to elevate those stories as well, because they do get shared. And when those stories get shared, the needle starts to move. And the next thing you know, somebody who had no idea what to do with their life is building a house down the street because they got a career. And there's not much greater than that.
Well, Mike, this hour went pretty quick. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for bringing your shows and all the work that you've been about for so long to Angel. Our guild members love you. On behalf of Angel and our entire team, the Harmon brothers, we just couldn't be more happy with the projects that you've been bringing to the table. Somebody's got to do it. That's going to be fun. Season 2. Thanks for joining me tonight. This was a blast.
I think you're okay. I think the Harmon brothers are okay, but I think your audience is amazing. I really and truly do. And I appreciate them watching, and sincerely, I appreciate you giving this project a home. I've heard from many thousands of people over the years who have watched Somebody's Got to Do It and seen their vocation or their avocation lifted up and tried on and experienced. And it gives them a thrill, and it gives me endless joy to hear about it. So thanks for making it happen.
It is awesome to have you here with us live tonight. Listen, for our audience, you can join in on the excitement by going to angel.com/Mike Guild to sign up to watch season 2 this week. Or if you're already a member of the Guild, you can visit the same link to watch right now, right after this live stream. Thank you all for joining Mike and I tonight. My name is David Fisher. Angel Studios couldn't be more excited to release Somebody's Got to Do It season 2. Enjoy a sneak peek of Mike Rowe's show, season 2, for those that have yet to see it. Good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
I'm Mike Rowe, and I'm on a mission to find somebody on a mission. Somebody who's got a passion.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like what you do?
25.
There we go.
Somebody who's got a calling.
Pretty excited.
Somebody who's making our world a little bit brighter.
I love to make things that make people smile.
A little bit bigger.
Who is with me?
A little bit better. Somebody who's got to do it.
Hey! It's got to be done.
December 7th, 1941. one of the darkest days in American history.
The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked.
The day that FDR said would live in infamy not only drew the United States into the Second World War, it forever changed our military structure. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor took out all 8 of our battleships. Luckily, the Navy's 3 aircraft carriers were out on maneuvers at the time of the attack. By December 8th, they became the center of the Pacific Fleet's strategic plan. The United States quickly declared war on Japan, and just like that, the age of the aircraft carrier had begun. This is the USS John C. Stennis, and there is no bigger warship. From keel to mast, it's as tall as a 24-story building. It's powered by 2 nuclear reactors, and its flight deck's as long as 3 football fields. Since it can accommodate up to 70 tactical aircraft, it's been one of the most important airports in the Persian Gulf over the past several years. For the past 16 months, it's been in dry dock, getting some required maintenance. Now it's ready for another deployment, and the Navy has invited me along for 2 days of maneuvers. How could I say no?
I'm lost already.
I'll try my hand at some of the hundreds of jobs to be done on this floating city and meet a few of the people who volunteered to keep the world safe for democracy. First stop, the captain's cabin for a quick snack.
Please go ahead and dig in. We just want to make sure you guys, yes, food, water, water, water. It's gonna be hot on the flight deck.
Yeah.
Calories, hydration. That's what we're looking for.
And some instructions from the keeper of our wildly ambitious schedule, Public Affairs Officer Sarah Higgins.
So this is Sergeant Higgins?
No, Lieutenant Commander Higgins.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I knew that. Just like I know how to pronounce the name of the executive officer of the Stennis, Kevin Hakimzadeh, who is commonly referred to, thankfully, as Hack.
Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
You are aboard the 7th of 10 Nimitz-class aircraft carriers. This one happens to be the best. Just you guys scored the lucky deal to show up on the best one. What a happy coincidence you showed up on the one.
After a hearty welcome, XO Hack answers the all-important question, who the heck is John C. Stennis?
The only aircraft carrier named after a senator. Senator Stennis served 41 years.
Is he on the wall somewhere?
He is.
Where?
He is. He's over there in the corner. So there's a picture of him arguing with President George H.W. Bush. It's a mock argument. As you can see, he never, ever looked young. He was probably 25 in that picture.
He's 25 here.
He's probably 25 in that picture.
That's great.
Going to give you a couple stats about our beautiful warship here. We currently displace about 95,000 tons. Once we get all the airplanes aboard. And
What's
all
that
the
mean
people aboard,
exactly, displace?
it means that's how much weight of water we're moving out of the way when we sit in it.
So you're just sitting here 95,000 tons of water
That's
being
right.
pushed aside.
That's right.
Is that counting Mike Rowe here as well?
No, they probably add about a ton and a half. About a ton and a half.
All right.
So the ship is about 1,092 feet long, to be exact. You will get a chance to see every inch of it. We're going to take you through at least the dirtiest parts of it for darn sure.
Is coffee any good?
Well, of course, it's Navy coffee. That's the best kind right
Look
there.
at that. That is delicious.
We're going to get you dressed up in some flight deck gear. You're going to
Great.
meet some of the finest Americans you will ever meet.
There are 5,200 fine Americans on board at an average age of 23, slightly higher now that I'm aboard.
I got your name on it for you.
And you spelled it right and everything. Extra large. All right.
Green shirts mean I can work with the crews on the flight deck, the place where all the action is. The flight deck is overseen by a place called Primary Flight Control, or PriFly for short.
Hey, how's it going?
Here, I'm presented with a whole stack of shirts,
Well, look at this. It's like the rainbow.
which I assume I'll be invited to wear during the various jobs in store for me during the course of what's shaping up to be a very long day.
Well, it's like Garanimals for grown-ups, man. There's a lot of colors going on.
The green is worn by sailors who maintain the landing and launch gear. The yellows are the flight directors who supervise the takeoffs. Red means emergency and ordnance personnel. White indicates medical and safety. Purple means fuel. Blues mostly move stuff around. And brown is for plane captains. Okay, time to meet the boss. Or the bosses.
I'm the mini boss.
You're the mini boss? Is he the maxi boss?
He's the air boss.
Yeah, just boss. Just boss? Air boss?
Aboard the Stennis, there's a boss for pretty much everything. There's the fit boss, who keeps everybody ship-shape. Then there's a civilian contractor called the fun boss. He arranges events and contests on the ship. Then there's this guy, the gun boss.
You're in charge of all the munitions on the boat?
Yes. All the magazines down below, all the bombs, missiles, bullets.
This just sounds like a fascinating job, man.
It is.
You love it?
I do. Been doing it for 28 years.
Because the expression of joy on your face right now could send a mixed message.
I'm a hard read.
You are a hard read. We're not going to play poker. Were you in the Gulf?
Yeah, all my deployments have been to the Gulf.
Yeah.
Some wintertime, not so bad. Some summertime, just pure.
I talked to friends over there who say, people don't believe it, but they're 135, 140 degrees.
You know, you got the sun baking the deck.
Yeah.
And you got that radiating off. You got all the jet exhaust, which is just hot as anything.
Right. And the water might be doing this.
It might be. It's usually pretty smooth out there.
Yeah.
All these bosses are bossing the sailors. Many of them are out here on the flight deck, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Folks like my new friends in yellow. Their parents call them Matt, Andy, and James. I think their call signs are a bit more memorable.
Slaughter's the Andy.
Andy's last name is Slaughter?
His Slaughter's his call sign.
How'd you get that?
I happen to look like the G.I. Joe cartoon Sergeant Slaughter from the 80s.
You kind of do.
I kind of do.
What's your call sign?
Bear.
Bear?
Yeah. I think it's because I'm cuddly and warm.
Natural.
Always nice.
So Big Bear and Slaughter, what do you call, what's the other guy, James?
Thud.
Thud? Yep. Come here, Thud. I need to understand why you're Thud-like. Is there a story?
Unfortunately there is. Thud is the sound my head makes when it hits the ground.
Just a little head trauma here and there.
Sarah, do you have a term of endearment?
A call sign?
Yes.
I do.
What is it?
DQ.
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 Don't quit. Drama queen?
Drama queen. Yeah, you got it. No, that's awesome. Well done.
Now that I've got everyone's call sign, it's time to head for international waters.
So right now, though, we are just leaving port.
Just leaving out of San Diego. So this is NAS North Island.
Right.
So there's some aircraft stationed here, and then there's others stationed at Lemoore.
See, that's the runway I'm used to looking at.
Yeah.
That looks familiar.
Yeah. That one's a little bit bigger than this one.
It's both bigger than I thought, but not big enough.
It's funny, it looks massive when we're standing right here.
Yeah.
Once we start landing all these airplanes and it turns into a working airport,
yeah,
it feels super tiny.
Yeah. How close can we get to the edge before people get nervous?
I trust you.
Oh, there's a net.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's nets all the way around,
right,
for the most part.
How high off the water are we?
I want to say 90-ish feet. It'll sting.
That would leave a mark, for sure.
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right there, gents and ladies. Up there on the bow, on the waist, we're going to be recovering helo shortly.
So anyway, that's the situation. The helicopters are going to be landing. You can just take your time, Doug. You get that shot comfortable. You know what? I can't work with you anymore. Helicopters are coming. Didn't understand a word. Let's go.
I think he said the helicopters are coming. Since I'm in green, maybe I can help.
The first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna put your hand out to the helicopter. Exactly. That's pretty much saying, I am here.
Right.
Right. Once you do that, your next hand signal is gonna bring in your palms in. Right. And then you're gonna bring them down. This is telling them landing direction.
Ah,
Once
okay.
you have the landing direction, you can start bringing them forward. Exactly. You bring them. You throw them into a hover. This is a hover. At that point, they'll stop and they'll wait. Once you bring them into a hover, you turn your palms upside down, and then you start sidestepping.
There's another shooter named Buster. He couldn't be here because his dad is ill, but these are his gloves. So Buster, if anything goes wrong here, I'm blaming your hands. And you'll be right with me.
I'll be right behind you. Yep.
And you'll be telling me what to do.
Yep. I watch your show all the time.
Why'd you stop?
I joined the Navy.
That's no excuse, son.
I know it. All right, let's go.
It's a pretty routine event, but still, it's got to be done with great precision.
Now go ahead and put your hand up.
One hand.
Go ahead and bring him over now.
Helicopters hover in nice and slow and float down like a feather. Jet fighters? Not so much. Now it's time to see exactly how you bring a 50,000-pound plane traveling 160 miles an hour to a dead stop on a 350-foot landing area in 2 seconds.
Some things are more exciting than others. This is pretty exciting.
In 1941, the Japanese used 6 aircraft carriers to attack Pearl Harbor. On April 18th, 1942, the U.S. Navy struck back. The USS Hornet, commanded by Vice Admiral William Bull Halsey, transported a strike force of 16 B-25 bombers into the middle of the Pacific Ocean. From there, Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle launched his legendary raid on the Japanese mainland. The U.S. Air Fleet stunned the Japanese by bombing military and industrial targets in Tokyo. American morale soared, and a major shift in the war was underway, which is a long way of saying, where would we be without aircraft carriers? The one I'm on right now is preparing for another deployment, which means many of these young sailors are new to a bunch of very critical jobs.
You drive the rig?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, fun?
Oh, I love it. I love this job.
Out here, planes fly in day and night, and the number of things that have to go right will make your head spin.
I could watch that all day.
Pilots need to put the plane down on a center line at just the right angle. But it's counterintuitive. To stop fast, you have to push the engine to full throttle. If you miss the arresting wire, you're going to want to take off again, fast. Once the tail hook catches the wire, the arresting gear below the deck absorbs all the energy and brings the plane from 160 miles an hour to a standstill in 2 seconds. Obviously, the arresting wires are kind of a big deal, and finding out how they work requires a visit below deck and a change back into the green shirt.
So this is the exact cable, one of the cables, that when the plane lands, it catches right onto that.
This cable is actually in the arresting your engine.
Right?
And so what this does, it goes up to the flight deck, and it connects to another cable via this. That we're
Got it,
pouring
the
today.
connector, right.
Yes. And then we build a little hot top, is what we call it. It's like a little sleeve for it.
Yeah.
And that sleeve is currently right there. You can see it right now. That's the sleeve.
How hot does that get?
That will get up to about 600 degrees.
Everything I've seen so far looks pretty glamorous. This looks like work.
It is. It's about an 8-hour job with a good crew. And
per connector?
Per connector.
Happily, I've arrived about 7 hours and 45 minutes into the 8-hour process.
When you pour, it's going to be a smooth, constant pour, and you're going to fill it up to the top.
The crucible is filled with molten zinc, which gets poured directly into the cable connector. When the zinc hardens, the 2 cables will be fused together in what every pilot hopes will be an unbreakable bond. That means tapping out all the air bubbles before the connection is made.
I did not think today I'd be pouring hot zinc to make a cable better connected.
Do you know how hot it was?
That had to be 1,000 degrees.
Just 1,000 degrees.
Yeah. Well, it works.
Yeah.
Thanks, fellas. Okay, so that was that. That was great. Thanks.
Back up on the deck, you can see the finished product in action.
We've known to make sure we're clear until the aircraft's in the wires.
But the cables don't work by magic. Somebody's got to wrangle them.
And you want to push off right before the terminal.
Yep.
Comes within like 5 feet.
Got it.
The job is pretty simple. You watch the plane land. You go wrangle that cable.
And now we clear out.
And then you get the heck out of the way.
I didn't break anything.
Then you watch a plane land. Wrangle that cable. And get the heck out of the way.
That's pretty close. Oh, yeah.
After that, you watch a plane land. You wrangle the cable. And then you get the heck out of the way. And repeat for the rest of your 12-hour shift.
It's kind of cool. You like that sort of thing.
We hope you enjoyed that sneak peek. To continue watching the full series and gain VIP access to our entire library, join the Angel Guild. What is the Angel Guild? The Angel Guild is a group of hundreds of thousands of people like you transforming the industry. We want you to become a guild voter and greenlight our next hit project. Most films are greenlit by a few corporate elites. Ours are greenlit by you. At Angel Studios, we cannot release a project unless it's been approved first by the Angel Guild. You get to have a voice in changing the film industry with stories that amplify light. Angel Guild members have greenlit shows like The Wingfeather Saga, Young David, and Tuttle Twins, shows that are teaching children positive messages of family, faith, and building a hopeful future. We believe in telling excellent, meaningful stories. Your membership directly contributes to the production of more projects, allowing filmmakers to make more quality shows faster. Our goal is to reach 1 million members in the Angel Guild. This will allow us to fund up to 5 seasons of TV shows like The Wingfeather Saga, Tuttle Twins, and others on a continual basis. In addition, your Angel Guild membership also grants you bonuses and perks that we are constantly adding to. Perks like complimentary movie tickets to every new Angel release in theaters, Guild early access to film and TV shows before they're made free to watch, opportunities to give your feedback to filmmakers, Guild exclusive live streams, discounts on Angel merch, and so much more. Join the Angel Guild today and help us make movies that matter to our children, our families, and the world. Welcome to the future of entertainment.